Welcome back to the Pure Scientology Please podcast event. So we're again talking about some hellacious information right now concerning life and death of Scientologists. It's my hope that this information indeed is coming across clearly to those Scientologists who have suffered abuses. And I feel obligated to people who have been speaking on their own podcasts or their own YouTube series about the problems that they endured, because frankly, most people who tried to make it in the Church of Scientology and were served an injustice are so dumbfounded that they can't say anything at all. Scientology justice is actually very rational, so long as the people using it are rational people, of course. There have been, me personally, I am at a loss of friends. People that I loved dearly are deceased. I am unhappy as all hell about their departure from my life. So I guess I'm selfish in that way. But I think anybody who has lost somebody that was important to them understands the way that I feel, especially if you have lost several friends. More recently, we lost a number of really outstanding church staff members who were so gung-ho in the way they conducted themselves in life. They were into being a hero. And I feel like people who are willing to be a hero are really important. I like people who are just totally trying to get something done and they're over the top, and then you just they come up with the craziest stuff, and it's great. I feel like it's like the backbone of humanity. So Sky Fuller was a course supervisor at Celebrity Center International. Sky came over to Celebrity Center, and I don't know the backstory there because I never asked. At the time he arrived, it was probably around 2000 or so, maybe 2001. And by then things had been so hardcore with Dave Pettit being so insane towards the staff. What you would have is these wars amongst the staff, because there were some people that were just totally dedicated to kissing his you-know-what. And so they were totally untrustworthy in this staff base of 250 people, all at 5930 Franklin Avenue in Hollywood, California. Then you had people who were auditors, and that means that they're technically trained. They have special knowledge of the techniques of Dianetics and Scientology. They're regarded as a cut above everybody else because they are able to deliver the actual goods. And then you have people who train the auditors. And then you have everybody who's keeping this whole show on the road. Anybody from, people running the hotel, housekeeping, to the gardeners, to we had a 4-star, 5-star restaurant on the property called the Renaissance. The Renaissance restaurant. Really, really wonderful French chef there making gourmet meals in a beautiful restaurant. So we had that team there, and then we had Dave Pettit, who had been placed there specially by management. He was a very bad technical person in Orange County before that, and he was acquired by somebody at international management who brought him up there for some space of time, trained him, and then posted him in Los Angeles as the commanding officer of Celebrity Center International. And because of that very tight relationship with international management, he basically he is not susceptible to any of the rules of ethics or justice that everybody else deals with. When I got there and up until the time I left, he was false reporting his weekly production of completions. So he would do this basically by going to the staff members whose job it was to get people through their Scientology courses, and he would demand that they did different things to lie to him so he could make a certain number. And he did this daily or at least weekly on Thursday. And I had intimate knowledge of that because I was over a course room for 4 years there, and he would come to see me or my junior or my senior to do that. And we got in all sorts of fights for that entire time until I just got up and walked off the job and said I didn't want to have anything to do with a false reporting lunatic. And I say a lunatic because he would just scream and defame people anywhere from 1 to 6 times a day at all of the different musters or gathering that the staff were forced to endure with him at the front of the room. And he would mock people. He would scream at them in front of each other. He would talk about their confessions, their spiritual confessions, and it was ugly. So you ask, why didn't we leave? Well, I didn't leave because I didn't have the money, and every conversation got worse, and I just always had this idea that I could, become so perfect at what I did that I would be able to say, there you go, I am a good person. Because I don't like to leave with my reputation soiled. And it was my observation that people that did just fight and leave, they would get declared suppressive, and they would just basically never be able to participate in their own religion again. So we had this bizarre scenario where you couldn't practice your own religion as a church staff member. You were getting screamed at. You had security being like, they'd get in physical altercations with some of the men. Sky got in a physical fight with the guards who would come up and provoke him. So it was tough. Sky was the son of John Fuller, who was perhaps the oldest Sea Organization member left in the world. So once a year, Sea Org members celebrate Sea Org Day on the 12th of August. And every year, everyone would acknowledge, the oldest Sea Org member in the world. And that was John Fuller. So he was very well known. When Sky arrived to Celebrity Center, he was placed over the Department of Inspections and Reports, which is over the ethics department. So it was actually very amazing to have a very rational person there. I think Sky was perhaps maybe 5 years younger than me, something like that. And he was a very calm individual, very, very in control of his mind, very rational and very ethical. So he works in ethics and was rationally handling people, and he was really getting attacked by the people who were there previously, and Dave Pettit, who were name calling him, making fun of him publicly, and saying he wasn't doing a good job. He then gets tired of the harassment, and he applies a policy by L. Ron Hubbard, which gives you the ability to clean your ethics file by doing an amends project. And in the policy, Ron says that you can basically shred your ethics file. So he does the full amends project, and he gets it approved by the LRH communicator. And then he shreds his ethics file, which was amazing to see. Him doing that opened the door for all of these staff to basically clean their files of all the garbage that Dave Pettit and this very scary team of security guards and the people inside Celebrity Center who supported this type of behavior had maliciously been writing. So Sky did that, but then right away he got basically forcibly removed from the role of Director of Inspections and Reports. He was needlessly harassed and attacked, and they made him a course supervisor, which was supposed to be this horrible demotion. But Sky was trained on Ron's policies on administration, and he knew that he was actually even a more valuable staff member now that he was able to train auditors. So he was training students, and I was by that time working over the field staff member program. And every day I would go through all of the course rooms. And what was very notable about Sky's presence was that his course room was overflowing into the hallway every single day. And people were really overjoyed to work with Sky. He was progressing. He kept this routine that was incredible with his coursework, where he got through the entire body of management technology, which he also got through all of the auditor training that the Celebrity Center offered, and he was doing the St. Hill Special Briefing course, and he would bicycle from Celebrity Center over to the course room that delivered the St. Hill Special Briefing course, which was over on L. Ron Hubbard Way at the Blue Buildings. So he just set this example of being completely standard, completely by the book, and totally going toe-to-toe with arbitrary baloney that the rest of the staff were really being freaked out by on an hourly basis by both Dave Pettit and the security team, and this group of very illegal individuals that supported them were all up to day by day. So I was doing that on my own steam, but Sky really set the pace because he was so great at getting through all of his training. And I couldn't study under those circumstances, having somebody making fun of you, belittling you, and Sky just plowed through. So eventually I went to Nashville, and I heard news here and there about Sky and how he was doing, and his wife, Judith. And then all of these different things happened in my life, and I ended up departing staff in the Sea Organization around February of 2019. And within 30 days to 2 months, I was at my brother's home in Beaverton, Oregon, and one night he says, "Corinne, a friend of mine is going to be coming to the house. Her name is Ashley, and her name is Ashley Tinnett. Do you know her?" And I said, "I don't think I know Ashley Tinnett." So he said, "Just give her space. She might be up all night walking around the property. I don't want you to say funny things to her. I don't want you to, do anything other than just make her comfortable." So she arrives and walks into my brother's house, and she comes right next to me and sits down, and she says, "Hi, I'm Ashley, and I hate the Sea Organization too." So I come to find out, I said, "Well, I don't hate the Sea Organization, but I understand there's some problems. So who are you?" So turns out she was Ashley Fuller, Sky Fuller's sister. And she explained to me that Sky was her total absolute hero. And she pulled out her phone and she said, "I'm stalking him on Instagram because he's declared a suppressive person." I was told that basically he was trying to leave for like a year, and he was being treated like a slave, which I can only imagine because he was treated so badly when he was literally the poster child for Scientology. So I'm sure when he was trying to leave, Dave Pettit and his security goons were just destroying him at that point. So she said that went on for a really long time, and then all of a sudden he got up and left, and he won't talk to her because he doesn't want her to get declared. But he had kept an Instagram site on that basically kept up with all of his whereabouts, and he was like traveling around the world. And it was so upsetting to hear that because it sounded like total, I don't know, it was kind of like the worst, the worst news you could hear about Sky, because that meant nobody was still at Celebrity Center keeping Dave Pettit and the security guards on their toes, in terms of Scientology. So then Ashley was, what it turned out was she had been in the hospital for 5 days. And she was working at that time for a very, very interesting group of people, Schwabe, Williamson, and Wyatt, which is this law firm in Portland. And she explained to me that the law firm used to be the very best law firm. But then the main guy who started it died, and the whole thing became very criminal. So she was leaving. She also said that 5 years earlier, the mother of my nephew, whose name I won't repeat, but she worked with Ashley. And 5 years ago, my nephew was basically gotten on to taking some sort of drugs, which led to him taking street drugs. And she said that this was something that wasn't made known, or it wasn't done in a legal manner. So she had complained to Schwabe, Williamson, and Wyatt about what had taken place. So she explained to me that this person was over my nephew's mother worked over human resources at Ashley's job, and Ashley was over security, and this other woman who used to be a Scientologist and was accessing the data files of Scientology for years and is still allowed to access Scientology data files today, even though she is anti-Scientology. So she's not supposed to have anything to do with the Church of Scientology. So basically, this woman and Ashley had been going, Ashley said, listen, I've been being stalked and terrorized by your nephew's mother for 5 years, and I've gotten sick. And she had just been in the hospital for 5 days as a result. So Halloween, I went over to Ashley's house, and she had a little party there, and had a great house, had 2 people renting inside the house with her. And then she told me that she was having trouble, with some people in her life. And then I asked the church if they would work out giving her an assist. And actually a church staff member in Portland tried to help her, but they were pounced on by this network of people in Los Angeles who are like anti-Sky Fuller. So Ashley got really upset, and I was out of town. I heard from my mother that Ashley had committed suicide using a gun, and she had 2 sons, a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old, and it's unbelievable to me that she would have done that. Date coincident to this too, Schwabe Williamson and Wyatt starts engaging in investments in the area of my brother's work, which is the Merchant Marines, and the area of my work, which is the music industry. So that within a couple years, people in the music industry were telling me that they were being supplied with money for their projects, their musical projects, by Schwabe Williamson and Wyatt. Kind of crazy, huh? So then I was doing well, and I went into Schwabe, and at the advice of Ashley from 4 years ago, this was in 2023, I walked in the front door and I said, I'd like to talk to someone about my nonprofit. I'd like to get some help making sure that, everything has been put together correctly. So I go home, and my 80-year-old father is really upset because he has been told that I was in Schwabe that day. And I don't even know how the hell he found that out. He's sitting at home watching TV all day long. And one member of this network of people had basically known that I had walked in following the advice of Ashley from 2019, where she said, if you ever get any money to hire an attorney, go to Schwabe. So I did it just because I felt like wherever she was out there in the universe, she would think, cool, she followed my advice and I helped Corinne. So I did that, left my number, gave my data, and by the next evening, I already have my elderly father saying that he's really upset that I walked into Schwabe Williamson and Wyatt, which is as outlandish as it sounds. We are not intimately, in the know concerning this law firm. We have no connections to it. I have no connections to it, and neither does my father. What other connections have been made to other members of my family are beyond my knowledge. But I will say that whatever happened to Ashley was upsetting enough that she is no longer around. And also that Sky, I cannot find the account for Sky Fuller anymore on Instagram. So I don't know where he is either. And there are more stories like this. I'm going to end off at this. The story of Sky Fuller, the story of Ashley Fuller, are not like isolated stories. These scenes are happening all around the world because of the influence that Scientology can play in someone's life if it's not done by the book. And so we really do have a terrible situation right now. I have a list of about 40-50 people that I personally witnessed being harangued and attacked, handled in a completely illegal manner concerning the Scientology religion, who are now deceased. So that. The other family pull is this constant connection from the Delphian School to Tiffany Ott, who's, her brother's running the school, Trevor Ott, and she's in Los Angeles running massive personnel structures inside the Church of Scientology, arbitrarily pulling people from one job, denouncing certain people, filling the files with her made up stories, which is something she was well known to be doing during our school days, to cover up lies and situations that she had gotten herself into there. So that connection of Delphi with Tiffany Boswell Ott and Celebrity Center Dave Pettit, this funnel of people, which I would call human trafficked children, has been in place the entire time. So 1996 until the last day I was there, which was in February of 2019. Another scary connection to consider is Sky Dayton and Arwen Dayton. They are considered something like royalty to the president's office in Hollywood at Celebrity Center, which means that they have clout in any church they go to. Anywhere they go inside Scientology, the personnel there will receive like a telex, or they'll receive an email, giving them directions on how to be really courteous to them. And this is not the air of Scientology. This is just somebody's made up baloney. Sky Dayton has a lot to answer for because he profited by getting children as his staff when he was starting up Earthlink. And one of them was Philip Gale, who also helped him develop certain key parts of his company. And it's my understanding that their connection to the president's office enabled the parents of Philip to basically become completely disconnected from Philip himself, as well as Liz Gale. So you had basically this family splintered through deliberate actions taken by Sky Dayton, the Delphian School, Greg Ott at the Delphian School, and later Tiffany Ott as an executive, illegally placed inside the Church of Scientology, and then the president's office, which is easily lied to. And one very vital piece of information that should be very publicly known is that the acquirement of this massive property in Oregon, Sheridan, Oregon, the Delphian School, is hard to really track with. So you have, first of all, a school that is not really actually Scientology based. It's more like a encampment, that uses certain principles from Scientology, but it has other core beliefs and principles and other religions supporting it, primarily Israel. And through the Feshbach family, as well as Mark Siegel, who's been a key executive there for decades. So you have this false presentation of Scientology to people like me, and this is not cool, and it's not condoned at all by authentic staff members of the Church of Scientology. And first you had, I suppose, Martin Samuels in possession of this piece of property, which would have ended sometime in the early 1980s. And then Alan Larson and the Larson family, which is Sky Dayton's wife, Arwen Larson Dayton, would be like the heir of that wealth. So you had Martin Samuels, and then somehow this property is acquired or controlled by Alan Larson. And, he who controls the city controls the kingdom. So Arwen is then like this really important key to the whole Delphi saga, because she's very pretty, she's a writer, she's married to Sky Dayton, she is friends with every celebrity you can imagine. Tom Cruise is a close personal friend of hers, and she is, treated like royalty everywhere she goes. And then the Otts are coming in as the next headmaster. So you have Greg Ott is the headmaster. Now Trevor Ott is the headmaster. Tiffany Ott is very, very key executive in Los Angeles. Meanwhile, Arwen's little sister Alex is married to Justin Meldal Johnson. So they again have all this celebrity power behind them. And there is a war of, what should happen between Scientologists and these people that have like a piece of a money-making asset that is ongoing. So if you are going to submit to the rules of Scientology, you have to follow the rules of the ethics officer or the rules of an executive while you're there. Well, if they have already been trash talked by someone at the school to you, you're not going to listen to them. And vice versa, if the person who's supposed to handle you is recruited from the, the children banks of the school, then you're going to end up just talking to like basically Arwen Dayton when you try to get standard justice applied in the church. So it has been hellacious, and I am speaking out in order to provide more accurate data to Scientologists who want to do Scientology, and they are flabbergasted and upset because their children have died, or they've been attacked and they've left and they can't find them, or they are being publicly ridiculed, or their estates are being somehow, tracked and stolen from them. Terrible things have happened. So when we have these sudden deaths and we don't have an investigation, again, the mind starts to sort of cave in on itself, spin its little wheels, trying to understand what happened. So that's when investigations and their printed findings are really, really necessary for all Scientologists to stay on track with what's going on and do their jobs. Thank you for hearing me out.